If you're ever low on gas while driving alone at night, do yourself a favor. Don't trust the first gas station you see on the map. I learned that the hard way. What I thought was a quick detour turned into something I still can't explain. I was driving back to Phoenix from a client meeting in Flagstaff, and I was already behind schedule. It was almost 1 a.m., and I hadn't seen another car in over 20 minutes. I usually don't like driving these stretches at night, too many blind curves, long dark valleys, but I just wanted to get home. That's when the low fuel warning came on. I cursed myself for not filling up earlier, but according to Google Maps, there was a 24-hour gas station just off a turn in a small town called Black Hollow. I'd never heard of it. The exit came up quick, unlit, and barely marked. I pulled off and followed a cracked asphalt road for about a mile before a flickering fluorescent sign appeared. Waypoint Fuel, open all night. The station looked like it hadn't been updated since the 90s. One pump. A dingy little store. No other cars. I pulled up to the pump and got out. The card reader was dead. I figured I'd have to go inside. As I walked toward the entrance, I noticed a man standing near the side of the building. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there, motionless, staring toward the highway. He looked like he was in his late 40s, maybe early 50s. Work boots, gray windbreaker jeans. Something about how still he was unsettled me. Like he didn't belong in the scene. Like someone had photoshopped him in. I cleared my throat. "Excuse me. Do you work here?" He didn't react. I waited a few more seconds, then went inside. The store was worse on the inside. It smelled like mildew and burnt coffee. The lights buzzed. A small TV in the corner was playing static. No cashier. I rang the little bell on the counter. No response. I called out, "Hello." Still nothing. I looked back out the front window. The man was gone. A door behind the counter creaked open. I jumped. A kid, couldn't have been older than 17, peeked out, half-dressed, eyes puffy like he'd just woken up. "Sorry, man," he said, rubbing his eyes. "Pump's old. You gotta prepay. Card reader's not working." He looked confused. "It should be. It was working earlier." I pulled out my phone to show him the dead screen on the pump. That's when I noticed the time, 12:53 a.m. But I could have sworn it was past 1 when I pulled off. I tried refreshing my phone, but the signal was gone. Just a spinning wheel. The kid leaned over the counter. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." I paid in cash, $20, and walked back outside. That's when I noticed the pump was working now. Card reader screen lit up like nothing was ever wrong. I looked around. The man was standing on the other side of the pump. Closer this time. Staring at me. My breath caught. He hadn't made a sound. No footsteps. He was just there. I tried to act normal, pumping gas as fast as I could. I glanced at him again. Still not moving. Not blinking. And then, without turning his head, he spoke. Quiet, like it wasn't meant for me. "You shouldn't have stopped here." I froze. "What?" He didn't repeat it. Just stood there. Same posture. Same blank stare. I hung the pump and climbed into my car, locking the doors immediately. When I looked up, he was gone again. I started the engine, headlights flaring against the building, and then I saw him, standing right at the edge of the lot now, just beyond the lights. Still facing the highway. I didn't even wait for the receipt. I pulled out, tires crunching gravel, and got back on the road. 15 minutes later, I was back on the main highway. I felt stupid. Maybe the guy was mentally ill, or a drifter. Maybe I'd just imagined it worse than it was because of the hour. Then I looked at my GPS again. The map had refreshed. There was no town called Black Hollow on the route. No gas station marked at that location. I zoomed in. The road I had taken didn't exist on the map. And my trip history? Completely blank between 12:37 a.m. and 1:18 a.m. When I got home, I told myself I was too tired to think clearly. Maybe I took the wrong turn and stumbled on an old, unregistered spot. But 3 days later, I got a notification from my bank. A declined charge. A $20 hold from Waypoint Fuel, Black Hollow AZ. The timestamp? 1:03 a.m. There was no record of that place in the banking system. No merchant listed. The address just said unregistered. And that night, as I was scrolling through my photos, I found a new image I didn't take. It was a blurry picture of my car, taken from behind the gas pump. In the bottom left corner of the frame was a hand pressed against the glass, and in the reflection of the window, just barely visible, that man was standing behind me. They say if someone knocks on your door at 2 a.m., don't answer it. I didn't, but that didn't stop whatever it was from getting in. I moved into my new apartment last fall, nothing fancy, just a second-story unit in a fourplex on the edge of Sacramento. Cheap, quiet, and not far from work. I liked that it had an old-school charm. Creaky wooden floors, brass doorknobs, even one of those wall-mounted gas heaters that made the whole place smell vaguely metallic. The first weird thing happened within a week of moving in. It was around 2 a.m., and I was up late scrolling on my phone in bed. I'd turned everything off, no TV, no fan, just silence. That's when I heard it, 3 distinct knocks, slow and deliberate, on the door downstairs. I froze. No one had buzzed the building, and I hadn't ordered anything. The knocks came again, closer this time, more forceful. Not pounding, just insistent. I crept over to the upstairs railing and peeked down. The apartment door has a frosted glass window, so you can see movement behind it, but not details. There was definitely someone standing there. I didn't say anything, just waited. After about a minute, the figure shifted slightly, then walked away. I chalked it up to a drunk neighbor or someone at the wrong address. But the next night, it happened again, and again the next. Always around the same time. Always 3 knocks. By the 4th night, I decided to wait in the dark with my phone camera ready. At 2:04 a.m., I heard the footsteps approach. Slow, then the knocks. I carefully leaned over the railing and snapped a photo through the frosted window, trying not to breathe too loudly. The figure stood motionless. The next morning, I checked the photo. All I got was a vague silhouette, tall, thin, standing stiffly, like his arms were at his sides. No details. No face. I sent it to my friend Josh, half joking about starting a door ghost series on TikTok. He replied immediately, "You sure that's not someone you know? Looks like he's facing inside." That line got to me. I zoomed in and realized he was right. The shoulders, the head tilt. It wasn't someone facing the door. He was facing into my apartment. But that couldn't be right. The door was locked. I checked it every night. I started keeping my phone nearby, and even slept on the couch a few times to be closer to the door. One night I waited. No knocks. Nothing. I thought maybe it had stopped. Until I found the note. It was under my welcome mat. Just a scrap of lined notebook paper with uneven handwriting. "You let me in. I won't go back out." I didn't tell anyone. I felt like saying it out loud would make it more real. But that's when the inside noises started. Little things at first, doors creaking open by themselves, the toilet flushing when I hadn't used it. My bedroom window, which I always kept locked, was found slightly ajar one morning. One night, I was brushing my teeth and glanced into the fogged-up bathroom mirror. There were 2 condensation trails like finger streaks running vertically down the glass. But I hadn't touched it. I turned around. Nothing behind me. Then came the scratching. It started near the back wall of my bedroom, like something lightly dragging nails across drywall. Sometimes it moved. I'd hear it on the ceiling, or near the closet, or right behind my headboard. I'd leap up and flip every light on, but I was always alone. I even checked the attic crawl space. Empty. Dusty. Silent. I tried staying at Josh's place for a few nights, but the sleep was worse there. I kept dreaming I was back in the apartment. In the dream, I'd hear someone breathing behind me. When I turned around, he'd be there, tall, thin, face blank like a mannequin. I went back home. The night it all came to a head, I was sitting on the edge of my bed, too tired to keep watch, too scared to sleep. Everything was quiet. Then I heard it again, the knocks. Not from the door. This time they came from inside. From the closet. I stared at it for a long time. I wanted to believe it was the pipes or the heater or anything else. But the closet door wasn't fully shut. It hung slightly open, like it had been nudged. Then I saw a hand. Pale, thin fingers slowly wrapped around the edge of the door and pulled it wider by an inch, then stopped. I bolted. I didn't grab anything. I didn't look back. I ran straight out into the cold, barefoot, and didn't stop until I was in my car, shaking, hands fumbling the ignition. I stayed at a hotel that night, then another. Then I found a new apartment. I never went back for my stuff. The landlord said the place was empty when they checked. Nothing was left. But here's the thing that keeps me up now. A few weeks ago, I got a package at my new place. No return address. Inside was a crumpled photo, the one I took of the man behind the frosted glass. Only this time, the figure wasn't blurry. It was clear. His face was blank. Not featureless, just missing. Like skin stretched too tight. But the scariest part? He was standing inside. Would you keep watching if a video on a stranger's phone showed your exact trail, moments before you found it? I like night hiking. I know it sounds weird, but something about the quiet and the dark helps me think. I usually stick to familiar trails near my place in Flagstaff, Arizona. Nothing extreme, just peaceful pine forest and a decent climb to clear my head. This happened 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday night. I'd started my hike around 8:30 p.m., figuring I'd be back to the trailhead by 10. The moon was out, the air was cool, and everything felt normal, until I found the phone. It was just lying in the middle of the trail, screen down. No case, no damage, just sitting there like someone had dropped it seconds earlier. I picked it up and hit the side button, no lock screen, no passcode. It opened right up. The weird part, there were only 2 apps on the home screen, camera and gallery. That was it. Out of curiosity, I opened the gallery. There were just 5 videos. No photos, no names. The most recent video had a thumbnail of the forest. I hesitated, then tapped play. It was shaky footage, someone running along the same trail I was on. I recognized one of the turns by a crooked pine tree. The camera whipped around wildly, like the person was panicking. I turned the volume up. You could hear heavy breathing, then something else. Footsteps. Not the person's own, but heavier, faster, like someone was following them. Then the video cut out. I checked the timestamp. The video had been recorded just 11 minutes earlier. That's when I realized I hadn't seen anyone else on the trail tonight. Not coming in, not passing by. I looked up the path and scanned the trees. Everything was still, but that silence no longer felt peaceful. It felt staged. I turned around and started heading back toward the parking lot, walking fast. Every few seconds, I'd glance back. I didn't see anyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone anymore. About 5 minutes later, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. One notification. Gallery app is using your location. I hadn't opened my own gallery. I pulled out the stranger's phone again. The screen was still lit, gallery open, and it had a 6th video now. It was a live recording. Of me. From behind. I froze. My flashlight was pointed ahead, but the video showed the back of my head, the way I was standing, my arms stiff at my sides. And something else. Someone was standing just at the edge of the trail behind me, maybe 10 feet away. I spun around, shining my light everywhere. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement. But the video kept playing. Now the figure was closer. Much closer. Tall, thin, slightly hunched. Wearing what looked like a hood or a dark cloth over their head, with something long and pale sticking out beneath the fabric, maybe a jaw or a distorted chin. It just stood there, motionless. The phone buzzed again. 7th video. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to. My hands were shaking. The new video started with the same angle. Only now, the figure was directly behind me. Less than a foot away. I didn't feel anything. No breath, no sound. I should have felt its presence. But I didn't. I turned and ran. No more glancing back. No trying to reason it out. I tore down that trail, nearly tripping twice. I didn't stop until I saw the wooden fence near the trailhead and my car parked just beyond it. Once inside, I slammed the doors, locked them, and sat there catching my breath. I was drenched in sweat. The phone buzzed again. I looked down. 8th video. I didn't want to open it. I wanted to toss the thing out the window and drive away. But my thumb hovered over it anyway. This time, it was nighttime footage of my car, from across the lot. Interior lights on. Me sitting inside. The camera slowly zoomed in from the tree line. No movement. Just watching. Then the screen glitched for a second. And when it came back, there was that same figure, standing maybe 15 feet from my car. Head tilted. No visible face. I whipped my head toward the trees. Nothing. But when I looked back down, there was one more video. A 9th one. No thumbnail this time. Just a black square. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Instead, I turned the phone off, tossed it on the passenger seat, and drove home like a maniac. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the phone was gone. Just gone. I'd left it in my locked car. No broken window, no signs of a break-in. But there was a photo on my phone. It wasn't there before. It wasn't one I took. It showed me standing outside my apartment from across the street. From sometime that night, looking up at my own window, and next to me, half behind a telephone pole, was the figure. I moved out of Flagstaff the next week. I don't hike anymore. Sometimes late at night, I check my phone and see the location icon pop up randomly. No app open. No reason. Just that little symbol. And every time, I wonder if I'm already in another one of those videos, waiting to be watched.